all of us. Amen.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, another round of applause for Thank you very much. Even though I was a bit distracted by when Prof was giving his speech, one thing I was able to get from Prof's speech, which I noted down, very key. You know, when you go here and there now, everybody is talking artificial intelligence. And I'm like, why are we not talking about natural intelligence? So Prof said, in the global digital space that is now driven by internet and social media connectivity, and then the last thing he mentioned, artificial intelligence. So, you see that daddies and mommies in the house also know what is going on. So, it's not only, artificial intelligence is not limited to the use of the Gen Zs and the millennials. So, we have our daddies and mommies also using artificial intelligence. And that is why you see some of our mommies asking, you know, AI and all of them some questions. So, I'd like to quickly recognize the presence of some of our guests who are also on the I table. We have Barrister Ayo Osula this morning, the Faculty of Multidisciplinary Officer. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. We also have Mr. Adeoye Ojerinde, representing the late Professor AJIMOBI. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. We also have Mrs. Joy Oyashote, representing Professor F.A. Kameno. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. As we get, as more guests arrive, we'll announce to the house. Also, a quick announcement: if you check our WhatsApp platform, a live streaming link has been dropped, so you can share with friends and colleagues who are not able to join us this morning. Please, 5 seconds, check your WhatsApp, share with friends, post on your status, tell them that something big is happening this morning at the University of Ibadan. And I hope you know that all over the world this morning, this is the only event that is inducting people into Sistn. So it's just only this one. I hope you agree with me. So it is only this event that is inducting people. No other event. You go to Australia, you go to Canada, they are all connected to this event. So please, a round of applause to us once again. And very quickly, as Heather introduced, we would like to have a distinguished guest lecturer for this induction ceremony in person of Dr. Tunde Adibola to deliver his lecture. Please, a round of applause.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with great joy that I responded to the invitation to give this keynote address. A great joy because I was privileged to be part of the team that started ARCIS around 1990 when I came fresh from the University of Wales with my master's degree. And I was fortunate to have been introduced to artificial intelligence And I came back to Nigeria with great excitement to do something in artificial intelligence. And when I got to Nigeria, I learned that there was a new center in the University of Ibadan for information science. And I presented a proposal for a training in artificial intelligence for the finance industry. And the distinguished Professor Olapode Aipeku, ably here represented, of blessed memory, accepted the proposal, and the workshop held for a week. And after the workshop, I was conscripted into the team of AKIS, and the rest is history. It is with this background that I happily and enthusiastically accepted to give the keynote at this function. I wish to thank the organizers of the function. I wish to thank them particularly for making the necessary efforts to build a society for information professionals. We live in a world that is more and more driven by information, and it will be a travesty if like Nigeria does not have a society that can take care of the professional development of people in such an industry. I will be speaking this morning on the topic of engaging development information. Engaging development information. And I chose this topic because I believe one area in which the discipline of information science and the technology that follows the science can be useful to Nigeria is in mainstreaming development as a phenomenon that we need to take very seriously. We are glibly described as a developing country. Sorry to say that the pace of development is rather slow, and some of the countries that are sometimes referred to as advanced countries are actually the developing countries. They are the ones developing. So if we are to justify the description of being a developing country, we then need to mainstream development, particularly in our education. I hesitate to try to define development in such a gathering as this, because it is a rather fluid terminology. But I will at least describe it as a complex, multifaceted, positive change phenomenon that is characterized by social, environmental, political, economic, and many other objectives. It's a broad process of sustainable improvement in a people's quality of life. It concerns their social, economic, educational, health circumstances, establishing equal opportunities and justice. The attainment of these goals within the development paradigm must be done in such a way that it does not compromise the ability of the future generation to achieve same and more. And development is characterized by the application of natural principles and technology to improve the conditions of both the biotic and the abiotic components of a given local as well as the global ecology. That is what development is. What about information? I came into information science from a technology background, and my appreciation of information reflects this background. So I define information as patterns in either mass or energy that reflect elements of reality. It is usually, such patterns are usually revealed by the intelligent manipulation of raw facts and figures produced by natural or artificial processes as basic data. Essentially, information is an abstract representation of reality which is employed vitally in support of the perennial need to make decisions and take actions. That is what information is from my point of view. To give an illustration, if you cut a tree and you look at the tree stumps, you will see a set of rings. The particles of wood could have been arranged randomly, which in information science we will refer to as equiprobability. But when you look at the stump, you do not perceive equiprobability. You see a definite pattern. If anything in nature does not manifest randomly, something caused it not to be random. And when you look at these grains of wood, the way they are arranged, people in forestry tell us that these rings carry information on the age of the tree. Because every period of wet and dry season affect the rate of growth of the tree to the extent that there are periods of time in the year when the grains of wood are densely packed and another time when they are sparsely packed. To the extent that not only can we count these rings to determine how many periods of wet and dry season the tree has gone through, we can actually also measure the width of each ring to determine how long or how short a particular dry or wet season was, how long a particular dry or wet season was in a particular year. So not only are we able to tell the age of the tree, we are also able to infer history. That is what we refer to as information, as patterns in mass or energy that reflects reality. But I choose this morning to talk specifically about development information, which I choose to define as observed and or derived patterns that inform decision-making, empower communities, raise awareness, and facilitate participation in the process that improve a people's quality of life. We talk here about data, knowledge, and the general communication that supports as well as promotes social, economic, political, environmental, and cultural development. It is in this context that I speak this morning about engaging development information. We talk about information as representing reality. Information as an abstract representation of reality is employed vitally in support of the perennial need to make decisions and take actions. We do not appreciate how much decisions we make and actions we take, because almost every instant of our lives we are making decisions and taking actions. The fact that you are here today is a result of you making decisions and taking actions based on information. And that is why we talk of informed decision. Because any decision that is not informed is bound to lead into some kind of unpredictable results. Information for most of history was based largely on analogy. We use energy in one form as an analog of energy in another form. We use mass arrangement in some form as an analogy to the same in another form. In fact, in the Yoruba culture, the role of analogy in using reality, using information to represent reality, is most succinctly expressed in such words as Alo, Itan, and Owe. Alo is a noun derived from the verb law, which is to twine, to convolve, to ply, to make one thing resemble the other. And that is why children are taught through a law by telling stories of human behavior through the instrumentality of animals and other inanimate objects. Also is Itan, another noun derived from the verb ton, which means first and foremost to radiate, to spread out, to shine, to reflect. All these are words that express analogies, one thing representing the other. And finally, lots more, but for today, Owe, which is actually a way that with which it can be wrapped, compared, or explained. So we see here that the whole of human history, until recently, represented information in the form of analogies. And that's why we talk a lot about analogs. But there was a recent shift in the last 50 or so years from the analog, from using analogy to using digital approach. And this digital shift has had a major effect on the way we now perceive information. If I show you a pair of brand new pair of shoes, and I show you a pair of a used version of that pair of shoes, you are likely to put more value on the brand new pair of shoes than the used one. The reason why you do so is because you have established a relationship between the state of the shoe and the value of the shoe. You have created an analogy between the state of the shoe and its value. If, however, I offer you a crisp, mint 10 naira note and offer you a scruffy, torn, sellotape held together 1,000 naira note, you surely will prefer the 1,000 naira note. Because here now, the value of the currency I'm offering you is not analogous to the state. The value is dependent on the digit written on it. And that is the distinction between information as an analog or information as digital. Unlike many people sound, analog information is not old and digital new. They are two valid paradigms of representing information. The only problem is if I now tell you that that crusty pair of boots, rough and untidy, was Nelson Mandela's boot on Robben Island. All of a sudden, it assumes a totally new value. That is the dynamism in information. It is always within context. So, when we now talk about information, digital information, and the analog, we find that there are specific characteristics of information in the analog domain and in the digital domain. These are issues for classrooms, which I will not bore you with here. But needless to say, that once we found a way of representing information in the digital domain, very many advantages attended that development. Some of these advantages include the fact that you could control the degradation of the information. In analog information, the further the information goes, the container in which the information rides, as the container weakens, even the information inside it weakens. But in the digital domain, no matter how weak the container is, the information therein still remains. Another very important characteristic of digital information is it makes for convergence in any form in which you use the information. It is stored in the same way. That is why, well, in these days it's difficult to talk about specific devices. There was a time you could actually buy a camera and it would be just a camera. There is a time you could buy a watch and it would be just a watch. There was a time you could buy a record player and it would be just playing music. But today, of course, you know what you call the phone and you put in your pocket will do all that. So, at the twilight of moving from these specific tools to general purpose tools, you could store an assignment, a typed out assignment. You could store it on a camera. The camera may not be able to read it, but you can store it on the camera. And if you connect the camera to a device that can read it, it will turn it into words and spaces for you. That is the essence of convergence. And the implication is that because of the economy of scale that convergence pushed, then many things that were beyond the reach of people who are not specialists became general purpose and therefore affordable. These are some of the attributes of digital information that make it very, very much accessible and efficient. I would like to present a scenario in nature which I choose to describe as a situation of ramps and steps. What do I mean by ramps and steps? Unfortunately, I look around and I don't find a ramp. But when you find a building that you can use, that a disabled person on a wheelchair can use to be elevated and come back down, that is a ramp. The counterpart of a ramp is steps. Human development has featured both the phenomenon of ramps and the phenomenon of steps. Phenomenon of ramp in the sense that you have so little differences in development that you almost cannot detect the change, but over time you notice that there is a change. Whereas on the other hand, there are situations in which things remain the same for some time and a major development comes across. And these are the kind of situations we refer to as revolutions. Change with high intensity and fast pace. There are three important revolutions in human history. Industrial revolution, a time in which human beings discovered that they could produce energy outside the muscles of their bodies or the muscles of their draught animals. So the human beings now found that they could burn coal to release energy. They could burn petroleum products to release energy. And that was another major revolution, in which it was now possible to get minerals, non-inanimate objects, to produce energy. The third major revolution is what we are now experiencing, the information revolution, which is a consequence of the digital revolution I had actually talked about. So it was the digital revolution that set up the so-called information revolution. I have explained earlier on the advantages of digital manipulation of information, the fact that information is more easily accessible, leading to this information revolution. So we now live at a time when information has become the main index of wealth. Your capacity to inform and be informed is now a major index of well-being. If you do not have the capacity to inform and you do not have the capacity to be informed, you will be living a compromised life. And another important feature of this information revolution is the elevation of communication above transportation. We find that there are very many exercises in transportation that we undertake which actually is to communicate. One of them is this gathering. The reason why we have carried the masses of our body into this place expending energy is actually at the end of the day to communicate. But because of eons of human interaction, we have grown to enjoy seeing one another, speaking, hearing one another in situ, and so we still do these things. But fundamentally, the information revolution elevates communication above transportation to the extent that if you consider an operation like a company like Uber or Bolt, they are supposed to be a transportation company. But the fact that it is a transportation company in an information age is the reason why you do not need to carry the mass of your body to a street side, and a taxi driver burning energy hoping to come across you. So what we do is we use communication to mediate that interaction. So whoever is trying to go from one place to the other is connected with the closest vehicle, and thereby the cost of energy in making that transaction is heavily reduced, reducing transportation and enhancing communication. These are the features of the information age. The sociologist, Spanish sociologist Manuel Castells, in understanding and explaining the information age, proposed the idea of the dichotomy of spaces. He talks about two types of spaces: the space of flows and the space of places. Space of place characterized by geographically locational, that is the space of place. Whereas the space of flows is the space within which information flows. The information, the type of information I talked about earlier on, that your capacity to inform and be informed becomes an index of your wealth and well-being. So, when we talk about space today, even though there is still the space of place and it's still important, which is why we have this space here, but of more importance is the space through which information flows. The space through which information flows is now a lot more important, and that is why when your data on your phone or your computer is reducing from 200 to 25 gig to 10 gig to 5 gig and it's going to 3 gig, you start panicking. Because if it goes beyond 3 gig and you cannot load, you now need somebody else's help to reload, because you do not have a space of flow and you are beginning to live a compromised life. You can't transfer money, you can't connect people, you can't call a taxi, because your space of flows has been constrained. So Manuel Castells said that information technology and the ability to use it and adapt it is the critical factor in generating and accessing wealth, power, and knowledge in our time. But he didn't stop there. True as that is, he went on to say, the disinformation of Africa at the dawn of the information age may be the most lasting wound inflicted on this continent by the new patterns of dependence. Now, if you consider what Manuel Castells said carefully, you will be glad that Nigeria now has a society of information science and technology. Because the careful understanding, management, curation of the space of flow is going to continue to be much, much more important than the space of place. Time there was when the richest men in the world were the landed gentry. The Sultan of Bahrain, the Queen of England, now the King. These were the richest people in the world. But today, if you are carrying cement, noodles, petroleum products around, you cannot be the richest man in the world. So, as the Society of Information Science, you should take note that the fact that the richest man in Africa is transporting cement, noodles, petrol, it means there is at the top for those who understand the information age. And that is why I believe we should take this issue of development information very seriously. It is no more just a matter of, there was a minister, a Nigerian minister of telecommunications that once said Nigerians should stop behaving as though telephone is for the poor. That was a thinking of the time. Now, when you will people in what's that shop? That Ibadan market where they buy a shop, you phone some barely literate woman in Oje, because the telephone does not ask of you the capacity to read and write, nor to speak English. You can do your business, and the woman sees that her account has been paid into, and she deploys a motorbike rider to deliver to your address. These are the dynamics of the information age, and we need to understand it very well. Otherwise, we will be living compromised lives in this information age. I said in passing that the reason why this thing works is because the telephone does not demand of you ability to read and write. Neither does it demand of you ability to speak in English or speak in some foreign legacy colonial legacy language. So I pause to say therefore that language is the fundamental foundation on which information is built. No language, no information. And that is one of the areas I would like the Society for Information Science and Technology of Nigeria to take very, very important account of. Some years ago, I was involved in a study looking at the effect of language on development. And we did a scatter plot of the Human Development Index of 71 Asian, African, and South American countries. I read them randomly according to the alphabetic order of their names. And we saw this mishmash of dots everywhere. But the moment we arrange the dots according to the language in which children in those countries are taught science and technology, there was a clear difference. Those of us who are teaching in foreign languages were down there, and those of them who are teaching in their mother tongues were up there. The Human Development Index, for the avoidance of doubt, is a vector of attributes, of factors, including infant mortality, maternal mortality, level of literacy, and many other important indices of human well-being. So, what that tells us is those children who are spoken to in their mother tongues and taught in their mother tongues have less incidences of infant mortality. Of course, it makes sense. The information is passed. And the same thing, people who engage literacy in their mother tongues are more literate than those who do so in foreign languages. If you have ever thought that Southern Nigeria has a higher level of literacy than Northern Nigeria, perish the thought. Because the average person you call an Almajiri can read and write in AJIMOBI, which is the writing of Hausa in Arabic script. So, we need to look carefully about that nexus between language and information. And it is very, very important that we take this on board as the Society for Information Science and Technology builds up. I said earlier that Nigeria is described as a developing country. I took time to look at the profiles of various Nigerian universities, and out of the hundreds of universities that have been able to look at closely in Nigeria, I find that only 7 have a formal program in development studies, and yet we are a developing nation. We are not invested in studying our circumstances. Let me make the point here that technology answers only strictly questions raised by culture and solves problems formulated by culture. Therein lies the fallacy of technology transfer. Because when you transfer a technology that answers a question raised by a culture, and your culture does not raise that question, if you want to justify the transfer of technology, you had better transfer the problem so that you can claim to have solved something. And that is what causes somebody to smoke gari with fork. So therefore, the fact that we now have a society of information science and technology, the implication should be that we can now look much more closely at our culture and align our technological development to our culture. Because like I said, technology solely answers questions raised by culture and solves problems formulated by culture. What I have just said is a more nuanced way of saying necessity is the mother of invention. And it is important, therefore, for us to engage much more actively in our reality so that we can address problems that beset us. We can address problems that are natural to our environment, problems which we may not be able to avoid, rather we are supposed to sit with and solve. These are some of the fundamentals of the notion of development information. Information is a be-all for all fields. There is no field, there is no endeavor, there is no area of life in which information is not an important index. And we did not take due account of the role of information before now. But more and more and more and more, we are now seeing that information is a very, very important aspect of our wealth and well-being. And our status, even our social status now, and maybe not so much now, but as we move further into the information age, our social status, our economic situation, our various indices of wealth and well-being will continue to depend to a large extent on our capacity to inform and be informed. Therefore, as we induct members of the Society for Information Science and Technology today, my charge is that we look carefully at our circumstances, consider carefully the issue of development information. Because, like I have said, any decision made or action taken devoid of appropriate information is most likely to lead where we do not expect. It is therefore important that our development processes are supported with information. And this lies in the responsibility of the circle of the movement of information management, information science, information technology, the various aspects of the production, transmission, and use of information, including the consequences of its non-use. These are the issues that I would like to place on the table of the Society of Information Science and Technology as members are inducted today. Thank you very much.
Please, another round of applause for Doctor. And I also appreciate a standing ovation as well. A round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. You know, when I was in June and the graduate days, when we go for conferences and seminars and events like this, and we're especially invited by lecturers, we always take notes. We make sure that we take notes, whatever the guest speaker says, the key points, because the lecturer who invited you, even if the course does not relate to the event, your compulsory question 1 is going to be about the event. So I really do hope that we took some notes from Doctor's lecture this morning. And of course, I took some. And Doctor said, if anything in nature does not manifest randomly, it says something caused it not to be random. And I mean, I thought of that. And he also said that any decision that is not informed is bound to lead to unpredictable, can we complete it, outcome. So he said that, and of course he made several analogies, the 3 key revolutions, the agrarian revolution, the industrial revolution, and the 3rd one, the information revolution. And then I thought to myself that, imagine we were in the agrarian revolution, and I woke up this morning, I'm just thinking of what to eat, and I started walking from my house, maybe down to Oyo or Ogbomoso, and I'm yet to find the food. How will I get here this morning? So it's really a revolution. And Doctor also made a scenario of value is dependent on the digits on the notes. So, and I was like, if they give you a very neat mint of 1,000 naira, and also a ruffled, raw, sellotape $100. Good. I'm sure we all know the answer. All right, thank you very much, sir, for the lecture. Please, another round of applause for him. And very quickly, while Dr. was taking his lecture, we have high personality join us in person of distinguished Professor Ihabo Mapankoshi. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining. Thank you, ma'am. And also we have the presence and the honor of Professor Larry Haino. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. So very quickly, we move to the induction proper for our associate members, and I will be calling out the names one by one. So while I call out your name, this is not, don't say present, sir. Just come out, make a line here, and we have a chairman induct you into the society. All right, we have Okuduri Chiamaka Faith. Thank you very much. The information reaching me now is that registered members are going to get a sum of 1 million naira into their account. I hope that is correct. All right, that's just a joke. If you know you registered, I have a long list of names here. By the time I'm done calling, I'm sure it will be like 4 p.m. So, associate members, if you registered as an associate members, please come forward one after the other and line up here while we take the induction bits. Please a round of applause for that. And also an honor to introduce our General Secretary who will be taking please just associate members. And of course, we can form two lines. Welcome, please come to this side. Thank you. And please smile on your face. All right, thank you very much. I would also like to invite the chairman of our society, Professor Tihamiyu. After Mr. Pampa take the guidelines, have Professor Tihamiyu induct the member.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, inductees. So I will read out the induction citation. You mention your names as I read, and after reading, Prof will formally confirm the induction to the society. Is that all right? Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. I, your surname, first name, and other names. solemnly swear and affirm that I will abide by the rules and regulations of the Society for Information Science and Technology of Nigeria, Sistn. I pledge to uphold the principles, duties, and values of the society as enshrined in our Constitution. I promise to be fair, upright, and forthright in the discharge of my duties as an information professional, and to uphold my allegiance Sistn at all times in my professional career. So help me God. Rob Sam.
With the powers conferred on me by the Executive Council of Sistn, I hereby, as Chairman of Sistn, pronounce you all and regard you all as bona fide members of the Society for Information Science and Technology of Nigeria, Sistn. With this affirmation and pledge of yours, you may now inscribe or append the title of S-Sistn. No, sorry. A Sistn. There was a typographical error. After your official names, as the case may be. Thank you and congratulations to you all.
Let's move back.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. Congratulations. If you want to, you can also have an action with the chairman. Congratulations. Congratulations. Please, we can do that quickly, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. While we have the second phase of the induction for our professional members. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. For our professional members, we'd like to also have you on stage to register as a professional. Or if you register to be a professional member, please let's have you on stage as well. Please a round of applause for them. become rowdy, please. Before that later, please. You will get your certificate later, after, please. Alright, thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to be inducted? Okay, yes, you have time. You mentioned your surname, your first name, and you say after me as I read the words of the induction recitation. I solemnly swear and affirm that I will abide by the rules and regulations of the society, my Information Science and Technology of Nigeria, Sistn. I pledge to uphold the principles, duties, and values of the society as enshrined in our Constitution. I promise to be fair, upright and forthright, an information professional, and to uphold my allegiance to Sistn at all times in my professional career. So help me God.
With powers conferred on me as chairman of Sistn by the Executive Council of Sistn, I hereby pronounce you all and regard you as bona fide members of the Society for Information Science and Technology of Nigeria, Sistn. With this affirmation and pledge of yours, you will now inscribe or append the title of Sistn after your official names. Thank you and congratulations to you all.
Give the camera the best smile. Cameraman, everybody must be covered, but I can't see the shining of lights. Alright, thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Congratulations, everyone. Congratulations. Congratulations to you all. Collection of certificates will be done later.
To say you don't catch up with
Alright, thank you very much, and once again, congratulations to you. Please, we move quickly to the next item on our agenda. The next item on our agenda, which is conferment of honorary Sistn fellowship, which we have as senior fellows and honorary Sistn fellowship on some of our seniors in the house. To take the first citation, I would like to have Mr. Olatunji Apapa on stage to read the citation of Professor Wilson Olabode. Thank you very much, MC.
afternoon once again. Good afternoon once again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to read the citation of Professor Olabode, my teacher of blessed memory. Late Professor Olabode was born at Yara, the headquarters of the present-day Ijumu local government area in Kogi State on the 23rd of August 1942. Late Professor Ayekweku attended the St. Paul's Anglican Primary School at Yara from 1949 to 1956 and was brilliant. He passed the 1957 entrance examination into Government Provincial Secondary School in Okene and accepted the offer, thanks to the love and generosity of his elder brother, Chief T.F. Ayekweku. Late Professor Ayekweku enjoyed Northern Nigerian Government Scholarship to study geography at his first degree at the Ahmadu Bello University, APU, but subsequently turned down the scholarship to study for his master's and PhD in Britain. He made a career switch to library studies in Kaduna, which he continued with and focused on at the University of Ibadan from 1968. He met Margaret Kikenlomo Omotayo in Zaria whilst in APU, and they got married in March 1967. They remained happily married for over 46 years until his wife suddenly transited on the 27th of October 2013. The marriage was blessed with 4 very godly, successful, and adorable grown-up children: Olushola, Yetunde, Olugbeyiga, and Eyitayo, and 11 grandchildren. He subsequently earned his doctorate degree in 1973 in the University of Ibadan, becoming the first Nigerian to do so in the emerging field of information science. And in 1983, he became a professor of information science in the University of Ibadan. He became a fellow of the British Institute of Information Scientists in 1986, the first African to be elected a fellow of the prestigious body. He served the University of Ibadan in different capacities, including Sistn Faculty of Education from August 1975 to July 1977, member University of Ibadan Senate October 1983 till October 2005, head Department of Library, Archival and Information Studies August 1983 till July 1985, and August 1998 till October 1990. Director, Africa Regional Center for Information Science, ACIS, November 1990 till October 1996. Late Professor Ayekweku pioneered the field of information science at the University of Ibadan and Africa. Between October 1982 and October 1990, Professor Olabode Ayekweku was the Africa Regional Center for Information Science ACIS project coordinator with the International Development Research Center, IDRC, Canada, and the United Nations Educational, Social and Cultural Organization of UNESCO, where for 8 years he developed and got approval of the structure and program of ACIS. He planned and coordinated all aspects of curriculum development and its assessment for the new Masters of Information Science degree program, organized academic staff training to PG level in Canada. A round of applause for him, please. In Canada and the USA for the Pioneer Faculty of ACIS, and piloted ACIS programs through the approval of authorities of the University of Ibadan. This eliminated the establishment and takeoff of ACIS. This culminated in the establishment and takeoff of ACIS in November 1990 with Professor Olabode Ayekweku appointed as the Pioneer Director. As ACIS Director from 1990 to 1996, Professor Olabode Ayekweku ensured the effective takeoff and consolidation of the Center's 4 programs: Master of Information Science and Information Science degree, Research Consultancy and Training, Workshop and Seminars. We also ensure continued support for ACIS through the International Consultative Committee for ACIS. We liaise actively with Canada's IDRC and UNESCO, the 2 major sources of funding for ACIS programs at inception, and so the Center's relatively unknown programs to English-speaking West African countries. To African He combined the role of teaching, research, administration, and professional service. His expertise became sought after at the international level as evident by the numerous consultancies. International Development Center in Canada in 1986 and 1990. Constant United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO in 1984 and 1993. Consultant United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNEPA, Addis Ababa in 1988. Consultant Council for Development of Economic and Social Research in Africa in 1993. And Consultant World Bank Global Environmental Facility in 1994. Ladies and gentlemen, this Professor Aliko retired from academia after 38 years of service, meritorious service to the academic community in 2005. He possessed many sterling qualities, of which there are too many to mention here today. He is married and blessed with children. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Professor Aliko for our time.
Thank you very much. Great citation for great personality. And we pray that may the Lord bless his family. I would like to have Mr. Tope Akimbinu to read the citation of our distinguished Professor M.A. Tiamiyu, where we have his step forward. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to read the citation of Professor M.A. Tiamiyu, my lecturer, it's the honor to see you again here, sir. So, Professor Uta Wakilu Adisa Tiamiyu was born 7 May 1953 in the western region of Ghana to Nigerian parents, and had his primary and middle school education in Ghana from 1959 to 1969, finishing with a distinction in the Ghana Middle School Examination of the Western Africa Examination Council, Ghana. Ghana's emergency AJIMOBI conference order of 1969 forced him to relocate to Nigeria with his family, comprising his father, his 2 co-wives, and 15 other children in December that year. Due to tough financial constraints in his family, upon relocation to Nigeria, he never attended a formal secondary school, but obtained his GCE, O, and A-level qualifications through correspondence tuition with the rapid results College of London, England in 1973 and 1976 respectively. His career, his work experience was very diverse and included as an itinerant author of personal and household items. As a factory floor worker in a matches manufacturing factory, as medical officer accounts in the Kwara State Ministry of Finance and as planning officer in the Kwara State Ministry of Economic Planning. He initially trained to be an accountant while working as clerical officer account and switched to read and obtained BSc Economics in 1976 as best student. And MSc Economics in 1984, also as best grade of the set. He was talent and a career prospect, opted for the then proposed African Regional Center for Information Science, ACIS, as a Information Science Higher Education Institutions for Nigeria and Technology in Nigeria, Technology in Nigeria, Sistn in 1915, then 10 years ago. 10 years ago. He was first employed as an archivist as lecturer 2 in 1990, promoted lecturer 1 in 1993, senior lecturer in 1995, reader in 2000, and professional in 2004, professor in 2004, and retired from the University of Ibadan in 2023. He was also acting director of Archives 1999 to 2004, director of Archives 2015 to 2010. Archives was later renamed the Department of Data and Information Science in 2020, and he served as the pioneer head of the department from 2019 to 2022. We have continued research and taught and supervised 24 doctoral theses and more than 50 master's degree candidates as graduates. Nigeria 1990 to 2023, and during various sabbatical years as University of Ghana 1997 to 1999, at the University of Portugal 2006 to 2007, and at the University of Nigeria 2016 to 2017. He has consulted for, led, and participated in several national and state level economic, education, data, and other information system projects in Nigeria. He has been external examination of doctoral degree candidates in information sciences in 12 universities in 9 African countries. He has published 5 books and authored several technical reports and more than 50 articles, mostly in national journals. He is married and has 7 children.
Member of our society. Today, not only are we recognizing him as our first honorary fellow, we are also awarding the first fellow because of all the awardees. It's the only person qualified by our constitution to begin with the award of a fellow of the society. He's been our pioneer chairman. He's been a member for 17 years, so he's more than qualified. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored and humbled to present this to my father in the profession, Professor Adisa Mutawaki Tiani. Promise said that I addressed him. The first time the son will address his father. It's for you. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations, sir. Please, another round of applause.
Okay, ably represented by, I would like to call on Professor Owangu to collect this honorary fellowship award on behalf of Professor Ishola Ajiferuke. Thank you very much, sir. And I'm not just the MC for today. I also have the honor to read the citation of Professor Ishola, and I read. Professor Ishola Ajiferuke is currently the Assistant Dean Research at the Faculty of Information and Media Studies, University of Western Ontario, Canada. He obtained his PhD from the same institution in 1989 and joined the then newly established Africa Regional Center for Information Science, ACIS, University of Ibadan in 1990. As one of the 4 pioneer faculty members, in the early years of the center, the pioneer faculty members focused most of their energy on teaching courses in the master and PhD programs, as well as training information professionals through local and international workshops. Ajiferuke spent the sabbatical leave and leave of absence years from 1999 to 2000 at the Department of Information Studies, University of Botswana, and then returned to the University of Western Ontario as a member of the Faculty of Information Studies. In September 2009, he wrote to Professor Tianiu, then the director of ACIS, to submit a proposal to the MacArthur Foundation in the United States for the institutional strengthening of the center through collaboration with FIMS at the University of Western Ontario, Canada. The proposal was successful, and in December 2009, they were awarded a 4-year grant of $101,000 US. The amount was partly used to fund study visits by research visits by 3 senior faculty members from the center to FIMS, purchase of books and other pedagogical material for the center, upgrade of information and communication technologies at the center, and 4, the development of curriculum for the center's Bachelor of Information Science program. In January 2015, Ajiferuke used the to visit the Department of Library and Information Science, University of Ilorin, Nigeria, for 3 months. During his visit, he taught 2 PhD courses and reviewed 9 PhD. He delivered a seminar on citation analysis to the Faculty of Communication and Information Science, and another seminar on to the Department of Library and Information Science. More recently, he has organized free summer schools for information professionals from all over Africa. Specifically, in 2023, he organized the in summer 2024 and summer science professor. Summer schools several lectures of library and tools in Africa. Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, and Uganda. The school introduced a basic concept, data science, education in library. The participants also had hands-on Star and R Studio in performing big data analysis. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Professor Oshola Ajiferuka.
Professor Oshola Ajiferuka is ably represented here today by my teacher, Professor Williams Nwagu. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Also do me the honor of bringing back on stage Mr. Tope Akimbinu to read the citation of distinguished Professor Iyabo Mabaranku. Please come on stage. Distinguished Professor Iyabo Mabaranku. Thank you.
The pleasure once again to recite state the citation for Professor Iyabo Mabaranku. Mabaranku was born on April 1948 in Ile-Ife, Nigeria, to Chief Jacob Oluwole Fakorede and Chief Augusta Omolara Fakorede. She began her education at Mogbo Day School in Ibadan and later moved to CAC Primary School in Akure. She attended St. Xavier's Primary School in Ado-Ekiti and Christ School for the higher school certificate. In 1966, she became the senior prefect girls at Christ School. Professor Mabaranku attended the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, in 1967, where she studied English and philosophy. She graduated in June 1970 and pursued a postgraduate diploma in librarianship at the University of Ibadan. She worked as a librarian too at the Federal Department of Agricultural Research Library from 1972 to 1974 and later pursued a master's degree in Education Media Technology at Michigan State University. In 1976, she was employed as an assistant lecturer at the Department of Library Studies, now Department of Library, Archivals and Information Studies, University of Ibadan. She obtained a doctoral degree in 1987 and was promoted to senior lecturer in 1985, reader in 2000, and a professor with effect for 2004. As an academic, Mabaranku has conducted numerous research studies, individually and jointly with colleagues. She has published over 60 journal articles and papers in conference proceedings, supervised over 200 master's degrees projects, and graduated 11 candidates. She has served as department and the university in various ways, including acting as the acting as the acting head of the department Archival and Information Studies between 2007 and 2008, and head of department from 2008 to 2011. Outside the University of Ibadan, Madawaku has contributed significantly to other universities, serving as an external examiner in several institutions and accessing papers for professorship positions in library schools and libraries in Nigeria, Ghana, and Sierra Leone. She is a member of the African Network on Information Study and information. So, professional associations such as Nigerian Library Association and International Federation of Library and Information Associations, IFLI. She has served on the editorial board of many scholarly journals and has attended and presented papers at Syria and other countries. She enjoys and has led many countries in Africa, Europe, North America, and Middle East. Sons, 3 brothers, and 7 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to Professor Ilabo.
At Firo. She knows me. Congratulations. What's up? I was born on December 1950. Nigerian and education in Ikare and Ibadan, followed by secondary education at Monroe's College in Ijebu-Igbo. He attended the University of Lagos in 1970. University of Ibadan for the postgraduate diploma in librarianship program in 1975 and graduated in 1976. He then obtained an MPhil degree in information science from City University, London in 1980 and a PhD degree in library studies from the University of Ibadan in 1990s. Professor Aina began his career as an assistant librarian and sub-librarian at the University of Ibadan Library in 1976. He later moved to the Department of Library Studies in 1978 and became a senior lecturer in 1986.
In 1989, he joined the Department of Library and Information Service at the University of Botswana, where he wanted to actually professor and professor in 1998. In year 2007, he returned to Nigeria and was appointed professor at the Department of Library and Information Technology at the Federal University of Technology, Minna. In 2008, he was appointed professor and head of the Department of Library and Information Science at the University of Ilorin. Professor Aino has served on the accreditation panel of the Nigerian University Commission, NUC, for various universities, over 100 conferences, workshops, and sessions in library and information science in Africa, Asia, Europe, and America. He is the pioneer editor-in-chief of the African Journal of Library, Archives, and Information Science, and has published over 70 journal articles in local and international journals. Professor Aino is married with 1 son, 3 daughters, and 12 grandchildren. He has also served as an editorial appointee of reputable journals in various capacities across different countries. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor
it is my honor in conjunction with Professor Adisa to present this fellowship to Professor Aino. It is well deserved. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, to the citation. This was Nigeria's national librarian for 5 years, which the National of Nigeria recommended to infrastructural development as well as manpower development. So, in the citation, and it's very, very important to show me. Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations, sir. You know where I come from for this day, they please go, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would like to call on the Pediatrica to read the citation of Dr. Tunde Adebola.
It is with great honor I read also led teams in the development of an automatic diacritizer for Yoruba reading test and spell checkers for Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and Naija of the Nigerian PG. As an associate and adjunct lecturer in the University of Ibadan and Lagos, Tunde taught courses in artificial intelligence and automated reasoning and supervised several masters and doctoral projects in language modeling, machine translation, and automatic morphology and induction. His research work in the induction of morphology of Nigerian languages offers significant improvements in the productivity of streamers and lemmatizers for use of transformers-based languages, yielding substantial impact on spell checking, information retrieval, machine translation, and many other national language processing tasks in these ages. Between 2012 and 2016, HALT-I partnered with Microsoft Corporation to localize Windows Vista, Windows 7 and Windows 8, as well as the corresponding versions of Office Suite packages for Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. It was widely spoken indigenous language in Nigeria. Today, a Nigerian academic and researcher African to serve experience as a lecturer at the tertiary level, teaching telecommunications and AI. He has held concurrent lecturing stints at the University of Ibadan, the University of Lagos, and other Nigerian universities. In 2016, he was commissioned by Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company as a consultant to undertake stakeholders' consultations and needs assessments for the delivery of state-of-the-art ICT centers to some Nigerian universities. Currently, Tunde is the acting chairman of DigiTeam, the presidential committee set up to guide as a culture activist. He has conducted extensive research in Yoruba indigenous languages and actively advocates for the reaffirmation of Yoruba cultures and a culture of deep intellection. Tunde is an honorary fellow of Nigeria Land, member of West African Linguistic Society, and a Chevron scholar. A round of applause for him. He has published numerous academic papers and articles in local and international journals, covering subjects such as engineering, computer science, information studies, and musicology. He is highly sought after as a speaker at local and international conferences.
present the fellowship to it should be made known that this fellowship, the order of presentation is not in any particular order. These are followed, so there is really no rank. So Professor Ikameno coming last doesn't mean he's held the lowest. In fact, he's highly esteemed. Okay, so I will now go ahead with the citation proper. Professor Fabian Haiterebu Ikameno was born on the 22nd of September 1946. To Mr. Ikameno Elambe and Mrs. Amada Okoinman Ikameno Atutomi in Eshan, Central Local Government Area of present-day Edo State. St. Mary's Catholic School, Udon, from 1955 to 1960, and St. Philomena's Catholic Modern School, Uwesa, from 1961 to 1963. Thereafter, he left home and 2 years at the GS College, where GCU level certificate and unsuccessful completion of the advanced level program in 1970. He was admitted in September that year to the BSc degree program in geology at the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University. On graduation in 1973, he was mobilized to the first set of the National Youth Service Corps and posted to the then Northeastern State with headquarters in Maiduguri. He returned to the University of Ife to undertake the MSc program in applied geology. His predilection for academics brought him back to the university system, this time to the University of Ibadan in 1977. And in 1978, he graduated with a Master of Library Science, MLS. He was immediately employed at Kennedy University Library, University of Ibadan, where he rose to the position of principal librarian. Between 1984 beginning the university cell with work in collection development and general administration. In the beginning, in the university library, Professor Ikameno worked with zeal and commitment in academics and public service. He served as system analyst and consultant to the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, Ibadan. Department of Library and Information Science, Delta State University of Africa, Delta State to March 2004. Director of Archives for a second time, University of Ibadan from 2008 to 2009. Visiting Professor at the Foundation Head of Department, Information and Communications and University of Ibadan from July 2009 to December 2011. Professor of Contract Appointment and Head of Department, Department of Library and Information Science, Ambrose Adi University, Ekoma, Edo State, from June 2012 to 2016. I could go on and on about the laudable achievement of Professor Yekameno, but for the sake of time and brevity, Professor Yekameno is happily married to Mrs. Esther Awisi Yekameno, just with children. Ladies and gentlemen, I give Professor Yekameno. Sounding round of applause for Professor. Thank you very much. I was just saying to myself that very soon I will also be, all right, and of course, here as well. I would like to call on Professor Aina to give a word on behalf of the honorary fellows. Once again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very grateful to be here this afternoon, and I want to particularly thank the chairman of Sistn, Professor Tiamiyu, members of this beautiful society, staff of science. This is a landmark position which we are all proud of. And as we all know, that said in Nigeria, we plan attack in the 70s and 80s. There was only a recruiting that planning attack. Unfortunately, we still have that data. And this is why this society comes to market information, to market it to everybody in the country, especially those in the government affairs. For example, I want us to market this society to the National Assembly. They need a lot of information. They don't appreciate it. So this society, our duty is to market the information in government quarters, the importance of having information. So on behalf of professionals and fellows, I thank the community of Sistn for finding us working to become to this society, to be in this society. And I as a person, I promise that market this Thank you very much, sir. It's really an honor to have all of our honorary fellows. Thank you and congratulations once again. And of course, as we all know, the bedrock of every society, the bedrock of every kind or a group of people requires something to
that's why I'll be calling on our General Secretary to just share some things with us.
Good afternoon once again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As you are all aware, our society is a very young one, and we need to grow. And for us to grow, we need your support in kind and cash. Please do pardon my language, I'm not ashamed to say that. So I would like to call on our distinguished guest, as God has blessed you, to please share the blessing with us. So I don't know how much you or to what extent you're willing to assist or help us, but we do need your support. So I'd like to start from my left, our distinguished lecturer. Would I have something to say, sir, Dr. Nicola, as a way of support to our association?
I will not have to say I will do.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to call on the representative of our retired professor. Maybe on his behalf there are some goodies for us we don't know. So Madam will tell us. Madam, please. Madam said we will hear it from them. Our regular professor has already told us that there are goodies for us, so maybe he can expatiate on those goodies. So with that said, I'd like to call on Professor Ayano to please tell us what we want to expect from him. That is sir.
Thank you very much. I'm a retired professor. Retired 5 years. We are somewhat belong as someone believe in this society. So I'm going to just play a small amount of money, and I give 50,000.
Thank you very much. We are most grateful and appreciative. Thank you very much. It will really not going funding our projects. I would also like to call on our distinguished representative of late Professor Ayebe, maybe on behalf of the family. I spoke with Mr. Alliance today, so he told me about your coming today. So any goodies for us? Thank you very much. Last but by no means the least, actually not the last, I would like to call on Professor Iyabo Mabarongu for what goodies our money will be given to our association for it to grow, so that we continue to do more of these another events. support as the future. So it's part of the team, very important part of the team. So the other people, most of them are absent due to that commitment today. We found Mr. Gabriel. He was in charge of our drive for Mr. Gabriel was in charge of our drive for public support for this event. So he's not available to listen today. I want to agree that she's the member of the team, very active member. That also absent today is our Oladipo. He's been working day and night, going to bed very late in the morning just to make sure that people. So I also want to thank Mr. Aguilar, who's currently absent today, is in Abuja. So the governor of the group is one of the reasons why we're able to here today. Round of applause for him. Okay, we also have this is Mama Fene anti-Dodi. This is a very every year. For those of you who are from the government, you don't believe that I'm saying that except in the article. It's all over the Konowa is playing for Chelsea. Mrs. Ola Ferrer for you. She's the reason why this one is available. Is the way it is. She's the reason why everything is not available today. Last but not the least, young but mighty, Mr. Tokwe Akibulu, we stand up for a revolution. Where are you? Okay, one more person. Okay, I'm also part of the team. So we get Christ now, like we say, we have others. So that's this is a prayer for you. The Lord of our first hour, please. Thank you very much. So the reason your registration is so everything. She's an iconic. So ladies and gentlemen, that's my time to enjoy the induction. MC please. And of course the MC. Alright, so very quickly before I call up the next person to take the next item, please give that exclude sorry, there's one my good friend is Sistn.
represented by our FO, that's Dr. Ayo. We appreciate Osula. Thank you, sir. Barrister Ayo Osula. Thank you. I want to thank all our fellows, our daddies and mommies in the house. We appreciate you greatly for what you have done in this field. You will not be tired. We appreciate you. Thank you, sir. I want to thank all the inductees, professional associates, for making it possible for your registration, for your trust and belief in this society. And for us coming here, thank you. We all arrive safely by the power of the name of Jesus. And the last but not the least, we have some friends and some families here present. We appreciate your coming. And I say, as we have come, we will get back to our destination safely. Thank you and thank you.
For the last time for the day, let us all stand as we take the Nigerian national anthem. Let us stand as we take the Nigerian national anthem.
are checking the sound. Sound check, sound check. Sound check, sound check. Sound check. Testing. 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 View 41.